A new report into the SeaWorld helicopter crash has revealed the pilot who died had traces of cocaine in his system, but it was unlikely to have impaired his flying motor skills. The Australian Transport Safety Bureau report has been handed down on the 12-month anniversary of the collision between the two Joy Flight helicopters. Joining me now live is Australian Transport Safety Bureau Chief Commissioner Angus Mitchell. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. As we've just heard, that a toxicology report found the deceased pilot had low levels of cocaine in his system. What more can you tell us about this?
Look, thank you very much. Look, you've rightly pointed out that's part of what's come out in our interim report, which has been released today, 12 months after the incident. Now, it's important to stress this is only one part of what we've looked at. And equally, because of the levels that were involved, and they were low levels, and they were cocaine metabolites, which indicates that it probably wasn't taken within the 24 hours leading up to the accident, but somewhere within that 3 to potentially 4 days prior to. Now, whilst we have no evidence to suggest that it was contributory to the accident itself, it certainly is something that we don't shy away from highlighting in the report, and equally the other safety implications of drug use, and not just for operators like this, but equally across our transport network. So it's highlighted for that reason, but as I've just mentioned, it isn't likely to have been contributory to the incident that occurred 12 months ago.
OK, take us through then the interim report. What does it say about the likely causes of this crash?
So, interim report, we don't go through the analysis. It's more around all of the facts that we've gathered over the last 12 months, and most importantly, around the areas that have got our greatest attention. And we've looked at those things that are closest related to the incident itself. Now, that comes down to not only those personnel and actions of individuals involved, but the helicopters themselves, and we've had a very detailed analysis of the helicopters, what was working on board them, their introduction into service. They'd only been with this operated for a short amount of time, but the operating environment, the busy nature of the environment there, and particularly around other mechanisms that are designed to keep helicopters separated. Radio traffic is one of them, around standard calls, whether it be the taxiing calls, the departure calls, the inbound calls. We've got quite a lot of recorded data, not only from both helicopters, and we have over 86 witness statements that we've gone through over the past 12 months, but multiple cameras from inside both of the two cabins that were involved in the collision, from on the ground as well. So that has built a very, I guess, a comprehensive picture of the environment. What we need to now do is to work out those things that were most likely to have a contributory element. We're also looking at visibility, exactly what the two pilots could see, and any potential limitations from the aircraft involved and from the physical makeup, from what the pilots may have been wearing, things like caps, etc. The markings on the rotors, all those things that potentially have weakened the system that was designed to keep these two helicopters separated.
One of the points in this interim report found that some of the passengers' seatbelts were not fitted correctly, in part due to interference from their life jackets. Was this a factor, and why aren't there broader safety standards when it comes to the fitting of passengers' seatbelts?
So that's certainly one that we put out a number of months ago. We put out a safety advisory notice. Now, that's been picked up around Australia, but also internationally as well. And it certainly wasn't just this operator. We went through hundreds of hours of footage and photos from those that have been involved and been passengers on these types of flight, through social media and posting there. Everyone who goes on these types of tourist flights tends to take photos. A lot of these end up in social media. So we went through hundreds and hundreds of hours of footage, but thousands of images to work out that it was commonplace that sometimes the seatbelts weren't fitted as snugly as they should be. The placement of the buckles weren't where they should have been, but equally the wearing of constant wear life jackets in operations such as the SeaWorld incident were often, compromising that fitment of the seatbelt. Now, whilst it wasn't contributory, again, to the severity of injuries that were encountered in this particular incident, nor to the fatalities just because of the nature of the accident involved, it was an important safety message, and it's one that's been picked up, as I said, widely around Australia and indeed internationally, to be mindful of those sorts of operations around briefing people properly, making sure seatbelts are fitted correctly and there's nothing interfering with them.
Just before we let you go, should there be a zero tolerance to drug use when flying?
Well, there already is. So certainly when it comes to the drug and alcohol management, there are zero tolerances when it comes to those. So as we've said before, it was certainly something that we did highlight in this report. And I know that's come as very difficult reading for those that were involved in the accident and the family of the pilot involved, particularly as we didn't have evidence that it had a contributory element to this incident. But equally, it's something that we do, and we've released another report only a matter of months ago where there was a similar finding involved. But it's important that these systems and the safety systems that are there to keep people safe, particularly paying passengers in operations like this, they're comprehensive. It comes down to training, briefings, procedures, things like a drug and alcohol management policy. They all form part of a much bigger system. Any one of them itself tends not to be the direct, I guess, causal link, as some people sometimes put it, but we look at the whole environment, and wherever we can see that should be improvements made or there should be attention brought to something, well, then that's our job to do it, and that's why we've done that in the report today.
Okay, Angus Mitchell, we will wait the findings of the final report. Appreciate you joining us. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.